win, 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 win. Hey, look, it's up for the win, 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 win. Yeah, look, we fight till we win, 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 win.
Men have worked and waited for is finally here. We're just 2 hours away, less than 2 hours away from the 2024 NFL Draft, and college athletes looking for their dreams to come true today. We've got teams looking forward to improve their rosters, especially the Dallas Cowboys, and we've got you covered leading up to it all. Welcome into the Draft Day Insider, Nicole Hutchison, Nick Harris, and Iisha Morrison. Y'all have been covering this offseason heavy, of course, leading up to the draft. I mean, you guys have got to be excited about it finally being here.
Yeah, and you mentioned the college kids and their dreams coming true today. That's always the best part of this, seeing those tears that do fall around families and living rooms across the country, even across the world. There's a couple of Canadian prospects that we'll talk about over the course of the weekend as well. But yeah, it's a really fun time. It's every team comes out of the weekend thinking that they made their team better, so there's high hopes all the way around.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I just want to second what Nick said about the fact that these players worked their whole life for this moment. Some of these players worked their whole life for this moment and to hear their name called and to be around their family. So to put that in perspective and understand how big of a deal it is for them, and then also, I mean, it gives us some clarity too, Nick. You know, we've been working so hard all this time, looking at all these players, and now we get to see, you know, how things fall and where these guys actually end up going and what round.
It's time to get things going. We heard from Executive Vice President Stephen Jones earlier this week in the press conference. Here's what he had to say.
We want to draft a Dallas Cowboy offensive lineman that fits in the room with a Zach Martin, with a Tyler Smith, with a Terrence Steele. You want that guy that you pick to be a guy who's going to go in that room and be accretive to what we're trying to get accomplished there. And I think certainly I think we've had great work put into this process. And as Jerry said, it's certainly fortuitous when you look up, and probably one of the deeper positions on this draft, I think unanimously, is the offensive line position.
Offensive line obviously being a position of need, key position of need for the Dallas Cowboys. Are the Cowboys forced into drafting an offensive lineman, though, in the first round? I've got to ask y'all.
I wouldn't say necessarily forced, but you better hope they come out of the first round with a really good starter up front. I mean, losing Tyler Biotish and Tyron Smith to free agency over the offseason, you're going to have to be able to draft a guy who, if he can't start, he has to be able to elevate the competition in those rooms to be able to throw a starter up front. It's very much needed coming out of tonight.
Oh yeah, just like Nick said, I agree. They absolutely, to me, have to take advantage of how many fantastic offensive linemen are coming out of this draft in the first round. We know how heavy the tackle position is. There's some guys there at center as well, I'm sure we're going to get into. But yes, this is a draft that if you need to replace a guy immediately, this is where you take advantage of that right now.
How late can Dallas wait on taking a running back in this draft?
Yeah, you look at the running back board, and you probably won't expect the first guy to come off until the late 50s, and that's where Dallas is picking in the second round. They would love to be able to go grab Jonathan Brooks, the productive runner out of Texas from last season, but you also have Trey Benson there. But if both of those guys are gone, they could potentially wait until the third round or even day 3 to go get their guy. You look at day 3 options such as Isaac Garendo out of Louisville, Isaiah Davis out of South Dakota State. You could also look at Rasheen Ali out of Marshall. There's a lot of guys that the Cowboys will be able to play with in the later rounds if they feel like they can't get their guy in the second.
Now, Iisha, I've got to ask you, which is a bigger need going into the draft? You've got linebacker or defensive tackle, especially with the loss of Leighton and Jonathan Hankins?
Well, I look at football as a machine, and with the DT position, they make it easier for the linebackers. It makes them allowed to be able to play more free. You've lost a lot of depth at that DT position. I personally think that you should be attacking DT because it's going to trickle down to those linebackers regardless. So that is where I would attack first.
I like the way both of y'all are thinking. Hopefully the Cowboys obviously draft all of those positions because they definitely need them. But we're just getting started here on the Draft Day Insider. And up next, we're talking offensive line. Which offensive lineman could land here in Dallas?
The Dallas Cowboys Draft Day Insider is brought to you by United Ag and Turf, your first-round draft pick for John Deere equipment. And by Dr. Pepper. Raise your Dr. Pepper glass to America's team. It's a pepper thing. This segment is brought to you by United Ag and Turf, your first-round draft pick for John Deere equipment.
Yeah, obviously, this place is the mecca, right? It's, it's got the nickname America's Team for a reason. It's a beautiful place. Dallas is a wonderful city. What a cool opportunity to be a part of an organization like this one, and would mean a lot to come in here and try to help win.
That was former Duke star offensive lineman Graham Barton, who obviously set the tone in Duke, the Blue Devils, finishing with a top 25 offensive line in 2023. Welcome back into Draft Day Insider. Nicole Hutchison here with Nick Harris. Now, Nick, obviously, the offensive line position really key for the Cowboys of need heading into the 2024 NFL Draft. Let's go ahead and just take a look at the tackles position first in your rankings right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the offensive line position as a whole, I would be shocked if they come away tonight without addressing at least one of those needs on the offensive line. Let's start with the tackle position. These are some guys that I have graded that could go in the first 32 picks. You can start with Joe Alt, who I believe is the consensus #1 overall offensive tackle. He's just clean. He doesn't do anything wrong. You know what you're getting in a really good product whenever he comes to the field. Taliese Fuaga, he was a 30 visit for these Dallas Cowboys, came into this building. He's a guy that they would really love to slip there to 24, although I don't see that as a realistic opportunity. J.C. Latham, he's a guy out of Alabama, obviously coming from a really storied program for the Crimson Tide. He's going to bring that to the NFL. He was actually the highest ranked recruit out of everybody in this draft available talent draft class. So another interesting tidbit on him. Olu Fashanu out of Penn State, probably one of the better run blockers in this entire draft class. If you're looking for a guy to really set the tone on the edge in the run game, he might be your guy. You also look at Marius Mims. I have him graded at 22. Now, Mims only has about 8 starts of experience at the college level, and he came from a 2A program in Georgia, so not a lot of really developed experience. But you look at his frame, 6'7", 320 pounds. He's going to bring that to the NFL, and he brings a bulldozer mindset to the league as well. And then Tyler Guyton rounding out here at 31 in my rankings. He played right tackle last season for the Sooners, but he transitioned from defensive tackle during his time in college. Started at TCU, ended up at Norman, but he had a really solid season last year for the Sooners. Might take a couple of years for him to really start to reach his ceiling as far as the NFL goes, but if you're okay with bringing in a developmental project that you can have over the course of 2 seasons who might be better than everybody 3 years from now, then he might be your guy at the end of the day.
Now, before we get into which would be a good fit for Dallas, let's talk about your interior lineman rankings real quick.
Yeah, we can start with Troy Fautanu, in my opinion, the best interior offensive lineman in this entire draft class. Granted, he did play left tackle for the Huskies during his time up in Seattle, but probably projects better to the inside. He's got more of a wide set. He's really good in that phone booth type style that those interior linemen and guards like to play in. You move down to Graham Barton. Now, he started as a center during his time at Duke as a freshman, but he moved to left tackle in his final couple of seasons, and it gave him experience not only across the line, but also able to call out things, not only from the left tackle position, but from the center position. He understands what all 5 guys need to do up front. That is really huge to be able to bring to an NFL offense. He's a guy that can step in and be ready from a mental aspect whenever he gets to his NFL team. Jackson Powers Johnson here at 3rd. Now, during the draft process, there's been some guys that have been super high on JPJ and others that have been super low. He's a guy that could go at 20 or he could go in the 2nd round, but I think as a center option, he's really intriguing because of his really solid anchor. He digs his cleats into the turf and he's able to really set the depth of the pocket at the front of the line of scrimmage. He does a really good job in pass protection. He does a great job in run blocking. Might need to improve what he could call out from a defensive scheme standpoint as a center pre-snap, but I think he can work on that as the NFL type of progresses. And then Jordan Morgan, offensive guard, I have him at 28. Again, he's another guy that played tackle in college, but I think probably projects better to the inside. He's got shorter arms that might work better in those close ranges, but he does have the athleticism that if a team does draft him and wants to play him at tackle, they have that flexibility.
Now, going back to center, out of Graham Barton and Jackson Powers Johnson, who are you taking? Who would be the best fit in Dallas?
Yeah, for me, it's Graham Barton. Okay. It's because of what he can do pre-snap and his smarts. It's really far and beyond any offensive lineman in my eyes in this class, what Graham Barton can do from an intellectual standpoint. But then you look at what he does, what he did at left tackle for the Blue Devils. I mean, he's able to maul dudes, bring them to the ground. He was a pancake machine like he was working at IHOP last year. And he does great things from that left tackle position that can translate to the center position. But also JPJ would not be be a bad pick as well. I mean, he's able to show some knacks in run block and is able to do a lot of the same things in pass protection as well. But if you look at the ceiling, which guy probably has the more upside, I'm going to take Graham Barton, and I'm going to take him to be a longer tenured pro than Jackson Powers Johnson as well.
Moving positions, you got to replace Tyron Smith. I mean, out of Marius Mims and J.C. Latham, who are you going with?
Yeah, I'm probably going with Latham, and it's because of this key stat right here. The game started 27 versus 8. I mean, 27 games at Alabama is invaluable. He came from a very storied high school program at IMG Academy as well. So he's been developed over the course of the last 5 years, you could say, arguably. Whereas Mims, he's got a long way to go. Both of them bring the same physical skill set, but I think Latham is more NFL ready.
Now, if you're talking about who can come in and be a better trade back option, you know, there's a lot of trade back talk here at the Dallas Cowboys at the Star. If you're talking about Jordan Morgan or Kingsley Suamataia, which one are you going with?
Yeah, I'm probably going with Jordan Morgan. Again, it's more of the experience, but also he is so clean whenever you see him pass protect. And he's able to step outside. He's got a really lethal kickback. He's able to move around the pocket, get behind the quarterback even to protect weapons that are trying to come off the backside. Whereas Kingsley Suamataia, transfer from Oregon, granted, I think he has potential to go from right tackle to left tackle, but I'm just going to take Morgan and his durability over Suamataia.
I think that there's so much fun in this, right? You never know what the Dallas Cowboys or any team will really do heading into the draft. That gives a little element of surprise. But we've got more here on Draft Day Insider. If an offensive lineman is not available, who could the Dallas Cowboys take up in the first round? We'll find out up next.
This segment was brought to you by United Ag and Turf, your first-round draft pick for John Deere equipment.
It would be an honor to be drafted by the Dallas Cowboys because, you know, growing up in DeSoto, you know, a Texas boy, born and raised, played at DeSoto, went to UT, played at UT. So just to come back home and play for the Dallas Cowboys, or just play back home in the National Football League, that means so much to me. It means a lot to me, seriously.
I think that would be pretty cool. Byron Murphy with the Dallas Cowboys, DeSoto native, 2023 Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. I think that kind of sounds good. I don't know about what y'all would think.
I would be all for that, absolutely.
all for that.
Just a little trip up I-35, might have to get on 121, but he'll make his way to Frisco.
Why not? I mean, why not, right? I mean, for a guy like that, though, I mean, we saw him at the Combine. What do y'all like about Byron Murphy?
Yeah, it's the short stoutness of him, but he's so strong playing in as a 3-tech. There's potential for him to go to the NFL level and really disrupt, not only as a run stopper, but as a pass rusher. He drew a lot of comparisons in his time at DeSoto to Aaron Donald, and I always felt like those were invaluable expectations to put on a high school kid. But you look at where he's projected to go in this first round of this draft, and you kind of stack his height and weight up with what Aaron Donald was before he retired, and it's very similar. He's well on his way to be able to do that. Granted, he's got a long way to go, but those are just some of the expectations that have been put on this young man. There's very high ones coming out of DeSoto.
Yeah, just explosive. The explosiveness off the line of scrimmage is what stands out to me as well. And just you see some guys, they're fast, but they're not as powerful. You don't see that with him. You see the power translate through reps, even when he's trying to locate the ball, just the relentlessness of his game. I love the heavy hands and some of the positioning he uses. This gentleman can go play on a defense right now and make a difference. I would love to see him here in Dallas, but, you know, 3-tech is not what we're in the business for right now a little bit. So
I think that would be, he's actually become a fan favorite for a lot of people. But I've got to ask you about Darius Robinson out of Missouri. What do you guys like about him?
Yeah, Darius Robinson, you look at him, 6'5", 285 pounds, and he's technically classified as an edge rusher, but he could play anywhere from 3-tech on the inside all the way outside to 7-tech as an edge rusher. And the reason he's able to do that is because he is just as athletic outside as he is powerful inside. And he combos that really well. It's going to give an NFL team so much fluidity to throw him on in a defensive line group and just let him play in different various situations and various different down situations as well. One of the best run defenders in this entire draft class, in my opinion. It'd be a very fun wild card pick for the Dallas Cowboys if those offensive linemen are not there.
Well, yeah, that's one of my favorite things about him is the run stopping ability. On the draft show, Kyle asked us very early on in this process, who's a guy that stands out to you that's a little crazy, a little off his handle. And I said Darius Robinson, when you see the way that he plays, just the motor and the effort from him is so high. Nick mentioned the position flex and his ability to move across the line. A lot of that is because of his intellect, but it also is because of his size and what he's able to do power-wise. Heavy hands. He's going to punish you if you overset. He is a gentleman that I would love to see here in Dallas as well.
Switching over to the offensive side of the ball at wide receiver, LSU wide receiver Brian Thomas. I mean, do you guys think he could come in and possibly fill the shoes of maybe Michael Gallup, who we are missing from this Dallas Cowboys roster?
Man, this would be a vibes pick for sure if they pick him at 24 tonight. 4.33 speed, and you combo that with a 6'3", 205-pound frame. I mean, he's got a lot that you can develop at the next level. He's got a developed route tree from the short, intermediate to downfield ranges. He could do a lot of things, and he did a lot of things for the Tigers last season, and helping Jaden Daniels win the Heisman.
Yeah, interesting that you mentioned the loss of Michael Gallup this offseason. Some of the things that I think that Brian Thomas does very well is he stacks really well. He stacks the corners really well, but he also has the start and stop ability. High points the ball very well as well, and the acceleration from him is there. He is a guy that I think can work the sideline and really make guys pay on the outside. So it would be a vibes pick, as Nick said, but we're with the vibes. We need some good vibes for draft season, yes?
We need vibes all throughout the weekend, really, with these picks heading into the draft. But we've got more for you here on Draft Day Insider and a cool game coming up for you after the break. Could the Dallas Cowboys end up taking a quarterback early in the draft? We'll be breaking that down up next. Finally, draft day. We've got good vibes here at the Star. Hopefully good vibes out there in Detroit. Dreams so close to becoming true for hundreds of athletes across the country. Welcome back in to Draft Day Insider. Nicole Hutchison, Nick Harris, Iisha Morrison. We got a cool game, right? It's only right to play a little games. I don't know if y'all want to play games though. It's draft weekend. But no, guys, I've got to ask a few cool questions. It's called fill in the blank. All right, let's do this. Blank % chance the Cowboys take a QB in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, I'm just going 0%. I don't think there's a realistic situation where the Cowboys can spend a pick on a quarterback going into this draft. They were talking about it in the pre-draft press conference earlier this week. Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, and Mike McCarthy. Trey Lance is effectively the de facto quarterback draft pick in this class because they spent a 4th-round draft pick to trade for him last August. So they bring in Trey Lance, and that's going to be the guy that they develop over the course of the next couple of years. That's if they are able to re-sign him after this season.
Yeah, Nick, you mentioned, I'm going to say 0% as well. But Nick, you mentioned Trey Lance and the Cowboys giving up a 4th-round pick for him. We know how valuable those 4th-round picks are going into day 3. So this whole situation about possibly getting a quarterback, I don't see it myself.
Yeah, and Cowboys owner Jerry Jones deaded that earlier in this press conference this week. He said, we want Dak, and that's that. So that answers that question. For the next question, farthest Dallas will trade down into the draft is pick blank.
I'm probably going to go with 37. That's my floor, although I feel like if they are able to trade back, it's somewhere in the early 30s, between 30 and 35. I just feel like that's where you can get some really good value based on the picks that those teams have available. My ideal spot is Kansas City there at 32. They have a couple of picks on day 2 and day 3 that they can kind of work around. I think that would be a fun trade down opportunity for the Cowboys.
Oh, I'm going to second what Nick said. I think that it would be maybe the 35 range for me, and anything above that would be 32, 33. I know we talked about Buffalo on the draft show and where they are positionally, but they might need some things as well, so we'll see.
Got another good one. In the top 10 picks of the draft, blank will be the offensive players.
How many? Let's say, I would say maybe 15, 16.
This is total offensive players in the first round.
I believe that some of the
top 10 picks.
Okay. Top 10 picks. Okay, so out of all the top 10 picks, how many will be
Offensive players.
I would say, at the very least, I would say 7. I think that some defensive players that we really like are going to fall to this late first round, Nick.
Yeah, I think 8. The Atlanta Falcons are picking there at 8. I think they take a defensive player, but I think all the other picks in that top 10 are going to go to offense. We're expecting a historic number of offensive players drafted in the first round tonight. I think it's going to start with the top 10.
All right, now a blank offensive lineman will be selected in the first round.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because you look at this offensive tackle class and it has so much talent up top, and there's going to be a lot of teams trying to trade in and get their guy. I think it ends up with 10 offensive linemen in the first 32 picks, although it may fall around 8 or 9. But there's some really good talent there on even the back end of the first round that could sneak in. Guys like Kingsley Suamataia that we talked about earlier, Nicole, or Jordan Morgan out of Arizona. Those are some guys that could sneak into the equation and find themselves having that fifth-year option here in a few years.
I was going to say at the 7-8 range with how many tackles, if I'm being true to my board, how many I believe have first-round grades, and then you may have a couple of centers that we talked about in Graham Barton, Jackson Powers Johnson as well. So yeah, this class is very heavy at the top. Very.
We played our fill in the blank, but now it's okay to be a little bold, right, heading into this draft. Up next, we've got our bold predictions for night 1. Make sure to stick with us right here coming up on Draft Day Insider.
The Dallas Cowboys Draft Day Insider was brought to you by United Ag and Turf, your first-round draft pick for John Deere equipment. And by Dr. Pepper. Raise your Dr. Pepper glass to America's team. It's a pepper thing.
We are moments away from the 2024 NFL Draft, and like I said, we got to think big heading into the draft. Be bold, right? I mean, I needed some bold predictions for night 1 for you guys.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the Philadelphia Eagles, the NFC East rivals. I think they get aggressive tonight, and they go ahead and trade up in the first round. I have them in the mock draft here on this a draft guide that you can buy right now on DallasCowboys.com. I have them going up to the pick number 12 and grabbing the number 1 corner, Quinyon Mitchell.
I'm going to keep it there at corner, and I'm going to say that I believe that Cooper DeJean out of Iowa is going to go in the first round. I know a lot of people don't have him ranked as a first-round talent. However, we've heard some teams are interested in that, so I'm looking forward to seeing where he gets taken.
I think the Cowboys are going to trade back. And I don't think they're going to have a first-round pick because I think they want more mid-round picks just to kind of add some extra little oomph there. But that's a wrap here on Draft Day Insider. We've got more for you on the draft show. Make sure to follow us on DallasCowboys.com. And we'll see you all later in the show.